At the last Board of Selectmen meeting, they discussed a Proposition 2.5 override or debt exclusion. It's estimated the tax override could address the town's growing school enrollment. The board also discussed a potential vote to increase property taxes later this year on school funding. Board members estimated that as much as $37 million is needed for additions to the Thompson Elementary School and the Audison Middle School, or renovate and reopen the former Gibbs School. That amount would fund a feasibility study for a new high school. At a recent Arlington Redevelopment Board meeting, the board did not endorse a citizen's proposal to restrict the size of residential homes, but did endorse its own proposed measures intended to influence development, but not hurt it. Here's more from the meeting.
Article 9 is another incremental approach to controlling the size of new development in Arlington. Yes, it did come from the master planning process where participants said they wanted to see the new growth in Arlington concentrated along the commercial corridors and to protect the neighborhoods. This change will, it's a fairly simple change. It will change the percentage of the lot that must be open space.
I think this requirement goes further than a modest change. I was a naive young family. I didn't even recognize that this would be something I would be talking about one day. I was just trying to get kids to bed at like 7 at night and get us up and out the door and get to work on time. And that's what Arlington provides for us, because I have to get into the city to work. I can do that reasonably. I can get home before 7 and put my kids to sleep, which is very important to me. I don't want to move further away where that now becomes impossible. And a lot of the families I talk about who are at the schools here, this is all of our concern, and not some of them couldn't get here tonight because they couldn't get babysitters. So we're here, and my wife's at the other meeting, and we had to spend $100 just to do this tonight and find, luckily, a teenager in our neighborhood that could come babysit our kids. But it's very important to us, and I think it's very important to young families that want to stay in this town.
Joe Barr, Park Street in East Arlington, and the co-chair of the recently mentioned Master Plan Implementation Committee. We did have a long discussion about this in our meetings, and whether 40% was the appropriate number, and I think we do want to make sure, our intent certainly was to make sure that this wasn't a huge impact, and so I guess I would just say that if the further analysis or further discussion shows that it is in fact there is something unintended happening here, then perhaps we should consider whether 40% is the right number.
This is one area where I step back from my colleagues. I don't think I can fully support this with the 40% requirement.
I do think it would be better for this board to have unanimity if we can do it. So my question to you, Mr. Chair, is can you get behind a 35%?
I can get behind the tool here. Yeah. It's the percentage that I'm not completely comfortable.
I know,
so
and
I
that's
think
why
35% is something that I could support. And I did think about this in the meantime, and I think putting it in front of town meeting for further discussion and debate is wise.
Right. On Article 9, to approve the recommendation of the proposed vote as set forth with the change of 40% down to 35%. So I guess that's the only change, actually. 35% in all 3 places.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.